Hey, everybody. As recruiters, we all know that hiring can be one of the most challenging parts of running a business. Whether you're a startup looking to build a dream team or a well-established company aiming to streamline your recruitment process, the right tools can make all the difference. Teamtailor is a powerful, all-in-one recruitment software your candidates and team will love. It's not just a piece of software, but a way of working. With Teamtailor, you get everything you need all in one place. Powerful analytics, an AI assistant, customizable workflows, powerful integrations, and so much more. Plus, Teamtailor is easy to use and implement with their intuitive, user-friendly interface. 94% of their users report better team collaboration, and 97% see an increase in qualified candidates. If you're focused on the candidate experience, CX is at the heart of the ATS. Just ask any of the 4 million candidates who connect with customers every month. Join the ranks of over 150,000 recruiters and more than 8,500 companies like Oatly, Porsche, and OneFlow who have transformed their recruitment with Teamtailor. Discover the new way to attract and hire top talent and see the results for yourself.
What is up, everybody? You're tuned in today with Kibben on the Rebel TA podcast, where our mission is to empower the candidate-employer relationship in the future of work. What's up, Kat?
What's up, Brandon? How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm out in Colorado. Where are you based? What are you working on?
Yeah, so a couple months ago, I just landed outside of Chicago, Illinois, in a place called Rockford. If you've ever driven I-90 in this region, you know where Rockford is.
Fair enough. Are you driving in your van? Did you go out there with your cool van that you were selling on LinkedIn?
The van is officially gone. It went to a travel nurse living in Southern Illinois, and it felt like a very natural moment. Like, she was ready to take it over. I was ready to let go of van life. And so everything worked out so smoothly, but no van life for me.
Right on. And you're the CEO and founder of 3 Ears Media. What is 3 Ears Media? What do you do?
Yeah, so 3 Ears Media is named after 2 dogs with 4 ears, and we could talk about that today or at some other time. And what we do at 3 Ears Media is we teach candidate experience basics that make hiring more efficient and more equitable. So a lot of times what I've figured out is that candidate experience, we try to apply all these really complicated solutions when we're not doing the very simple things right. And it's because most people don't have the time to peel back the layers and figure out what's going wrong. And so I train teams on what good means so they can go back home and build it.
That's something that I hear a ton working with early stage founders. It's probably just one of those like tech idioms, like know what good looks like. I feel like that's just like something I hear all the time being a tech bro. What is like the basics mean to you? What does good look like from a candidate experience in 2025?
Yeah, so right now, I think if you are willing to put energy, if you said, I want to improve the candidate experience, I would hyper focus on your job postings and your interview experience. Because as far as the candidate experience, I think human experience, so let's just go to psychology. And this is where that's my lens on everything, is how do humans work?
Here we go. Buckle up. I'll unpack my trauma.
I love it. I love it. And we don't ask any therapy questions. That's tip number 1 for your interviews. But the other piece that I really think about is, so for people, we have 2 big kind of emotional reactions in the candidate experience. We have a lot of them, but I think the ones that set the tone for the entire experience that you have is when you read the job posting, what do you feel? When you have the interview process, what do you know? And it's because something is happening inside of us when we approach those 2 moments. And this is the part no one talks about, right? So the job posting. You and I, we've both had corporate jobs in our lives, right? And the thing that you and I both know about that world is that you do not quit a cushy corporate job unless it like really, really sucks.
Yeah.
It has to suck long term even. It can't even like just suck for like 3 days or 3 weeks.
Yep.
We let it suck for 3 months or 3 years before we let that stuff go. So when you open up the internet and you search for a job posting, you're having a moment. You're pissed off, you're tired, you're excited. Something is happening inside of you. And that's why that job post matters so much. And we put so little energy on it. And then with the interview, right? I mean, who's not nervous when you go to an interview? Who's not anxious about the answer? Who's not looking forward to the next steps, right? And so because both of those are emotional, it also makes it highly memorable. It makes it something that sticks in your brain longer than the very nice email from the recruiter that you weren't expecting, or the pop-up chat bot on the website, because those
Yep.
aren't emotional.
I really dig that. When I think about the employer brand and the candidate experience, they're so intertwined. We're focusing about the wrong things, I think, when we look at the conversations around employer brand and recruitment marketing. Such a majority of that is like, where does this position sit in an org chart? It's like, no, let's talk about the stuff that matters. And for me, employer brand is about how we make somebody feel, and recruitment marketing is about conversion in a funnel. So the employer brand is often things that people don't think it is. The employer brand is like the experience after the recruiter handoff. Like your perception of that company as an employer of choice changes by how the interviewers treat you. I love that you called out the corporate world too. I think when it comes to jobs, it's like either learn or earn, but now I've been adding in or yearn. What do you want to do? It's not about having the skills and experience that help deliver value to shareholders in the moment. It's about your ambitions and how you want to grow as a person. And how does your employer support that?
Yeah.
I think that's what we get wrong about skills-based hiring. And I've talked to folks about this.
Yeah.
It's focusing on what people have done in the past, not what they want to do.
Well,
Your take.
The other side of it, right? As someone who loved working at startups, like that was my jam. I did a lot of startup work right out of the gate. I want somebody who's excited about the idea, right?
Yeah.
And okay, yeah, I don't have a traditional resume about X, Y, and Z, but for example, I worked at care.com. I was one of their first 100 employees. And my background is I was a kid of a single mom who was a military officer. So we moved across the country and she never had a babysitter. So when I come across this company that is doing an online matching where they're verifying and doing background checks for these babysitters so that people can have babysitters even when, grandma doesn't live down the road, I was like, that is a brilliant idea. I am very excited about this, and I will apply whatever I've got to help the world know that this exists. And I want to work with people, even in my own business now when I'm doing hiring. It's like, if you don't understand why sucky job postings and really awful interviews don't make the world suck a little more, then I probably don't want to work with you. And whatever your background is, if I think you're capable of the job, that's fine. But I'm not hiring anyone who's not excited about the idea.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between a lot of hiring advice. There's no one size fits all, no one right way to do it. There's no recruiting jail. There's no recruiting emergency room. I think it's startups too, or especially maybe your experience hiring people, like you can get away with a little bit more personalization because you're looking for folks that can 3x the business or 3x the role function.
Yeah.
I don't think there's such thing as like a 10x engineer. But I think there is a 3x. And I think you get these folks that come in with pie or comb-shaped skill sets, and they do great things. They can see around corners. They can learn really quickly. They apply pattern matching from maybe small blips of past experiences. So I didn't know that you're actually like that big. Like, what does 3 years media look like from an operations perspective? Do you have like contractors? Do you have full-timers? How do you think about it?
We have all contractors just because the nature of this business is that we do a lot of cyclical work because it's between training and writing.
Okay.
And there are times of year when people are doing a lot of hiring and we're doing a ton of job post writing, and other times of year where we're doing a ton of training, but not so much of the writing. And I got to tell you that even as a job post writer, I have made mistakes with my job postings. I have made mistakes with hiring. I have 100% hired the absolute wrong profile. And it is almost embarrassing to realize that outside of this world, I can be a job posting expert and then I can write a job posting for the wrong job within my own business.
I don't think that's too dissimilar to recruiters that might be out of work. Great at reading resumes, terrible at writing them sometimes. That's something my friends tell me, or a lot of recruiters I've met is just like, yo, I'm struggling to write my own resume. How do we think about this? But the job posting, it's like, I think of it as 2 documents. It's like, create a job ad. You want to get people hype. You want to get them excited about something. Tell a story. You're copywriting. It's also on a screen. There should be like potentially a heat map and multiple funnels to have a conversion moment. Then in their onboarding, give them that long Notion document, the Google Doc, go, attach each bullet point to their OKR and their KPI reverse engineered from the strategic plan. Like, this is the work recruiters need to be doing and thinking about it, especially the way people consume information in 2025. Like, what? How many characters does Twitter allow you?
Exactly.
Why is your job description like 4 finger scrolls?
Well, and the average person's attention span is about as long as they sit on the toilet for a number one. Like, you don't get more than maybe 250 words of attention before someone's brain has cut to the next thing. And 250 words is probably an exaggeration at this point.
Yeah, it's wild. That's why I actually like to see some of, maybe it was a couple years back. Yes, it was a few years back when TikTok really blew up. It was like doing like TikTok style resumes that was actually candidate led. And when I think about us working in the largest generationally diverse workforce of 5 generations, we can't just have HR tech vendors and recruiters building product and process reflective of our needs. We need to position the candidate at the center of the aperture. That's the most important part. You got to fish where the fish are. And if they're creating like videos on TikTok about a resume, how are we creating like a parallel repository for receiving that information?
Yep. And that's exactly why, actually, many years ago, it's crazy because you keep talking about conversion and I'm like, that's my world, right? So my backstory is I actually worked my way up until I was a CMO. I was probably like 28. So I was one of those like very aggressive go-getters, very young in my career. And I became the CMO and I was like, oh, the C stands for see me for problems that you don't want to work on. Like, I am simply here to navigate conflict and address any like reports that have not been delivered on time or we are under delivering on. And the thing that I learned kind of on that path is, like you said, conversion. And when it comes to job postings, what I found is like, you got to give people the information they feel like they never got. And we need to work on the psychological elements, not just the entertainment elements. So for example, when I do a job posting, we always talk about 3 things. All right. Number 1, the impact of the work. We know that a lot of people are making changes because of their values. And that was something that did not exist 5 years ago. Before COVID, nobody would say, I'm leaving this company because the values don't align with mine. You wouldn't say it out loud. You might believe it. You might feel it, but it wouldn't be the thing you would check the box on the the offboarding survey. Yeah. So we always talk about impact and basically like who you help within the job. The second thing we do, and this is one of those ones that everyone forgets, is everyday activities. What do you do every single day? You want to know why? Because 27% of people quit within the first 60 days because the job does not align with their expectations.
Interesting.
You want to save money? Tell people what they're going to do every day. It allows them to opt in because you don't want a job with a different title and a different paycheck where you do the exact same crap.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's just not. And then it's the mandatory requirements. And this is actually where I think we have the most growth and where we can have the most influence on AI adoption. And most people are like, wait, what? If your job data is not accurate, if it is not specific, and if it is not universally understood, meaning I can hand it to 12 different people and they can all describe it succinctly in the same way, you can't automate it. And it's probably one of the biggest mistakes I'm seeing teams make right now in automation is that they're leaning into what seems easy and they're not worried about the impact of bad data on their growth and their ability 1 year, 5 years, 10 years from now.
I think that timeline is realistic too. Like, we have to be future looking with our roles. And that comes down to the conversations we have. It's back to that employer brand piece and the candidate experience piece. Like, can you break the fourth wall and have an open conversation with your candidate about where they want to be and how they want to get there? How can I help you get there? What are some skills you want to develop along this way?
Yes. Is this the next best step for you?
Yeah. And I think this question has been asked in the past through like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I actually flip that one around. And that's part of my sales pitch. I don't know if you think about this with recruiters screens as part of your candidate experience and like an extension of the job ad. It's like, how does this position like align with your career journey? I want you in 5 years to look back and say, you know what, that was a great decision. Because like at the end of the day, like I'm taking this bet on this company Like just because I'm the one on the receiving end of the process and working with the hiring manager to make a decision, like it doesn't mean that I operate in a vacuum. Like
Yes.
I'm a recruiter. I'm the first one to go when shit hits the fan.
I know my role, right? So the way I ask that question, and I find that I get a little bit of a different answer if I ask it this way, is in 5 years, if this was the best job you ever had, and you wanted to send me something real nice to say thank you, what would happen between now and then that would make it great for you?
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
So what I find about that, asking it that way versus where are you headed, is because I can get a grasp of some of the things that I can control. Meaning, if they tell me I want to see 3 promotions and I want to be at this role by this time, I can tell them, like, people in this role don't typically get 3 promotions in 5 years. You might get 1. That's kind of how we're working here. Or they can say, I would get a pay raise every year and new responsibilities and this or that. And we can also be like, okay, let's set expectations. At our company, we do pay raises on years where we make money or whatever that means. But what I find is that I can mitigate some of those benchmarks that made me, at least, really unhappy when I was at other companies, because they're like, we're a fast growth company. And then I get there and they're like, and I'm asking for a promotion. They're like, but you have to stay in your job for at least 3 years. Right?
I think being realistic and understanding the timelines and being able to communicate that up front, early stages in the funnel with candidates. Like if they're working at AWS and they want those like structured promotions at specific milestones, and your mid-manager that's going to give you the promo and submit to your EVP is just checking a box, like that's not the playbook, and that's not the type of personality that works in potentially an early stage startup. Like if you're over indexing on job title, like at the end of the day, like you're either eng or you're not eng.
Well, and I'm sure you run into this too, is when you're building the early stage team, you've got people from big companies, you've got people who love early stage, and you've got people who understand startups but haven't done early stage. And I make all those clarifications because each person wants something different in their career typically, right? They have different motivations. And that's why I set that benchmark. And I'm like, tell me what's happening. What are the measurable ways that you would be able to look back and say, I won or I lost? Instead of just saying like, well, because my like cliche candidate answer for the where do you see yourself in 5 years is always working for you.
Yeah, this is actually interesting. You call that out about the differences between startups. I think a lot of folks want to work in a startup because like they've got an Uncle Tony who made a bunch of money at Uber. But like at the end of the day, like startup is just a word, and like our perception of that fluctuates in the market based on like the perks and benefits people throw at each other. There's a fascinating thread I wanted to pull about the stages, and it goes to Wellfound. I don't know if you've ever used Wellfound or like Angel Co for sourcing. It's been a platform for years, and the current CEO, Amit, has bucketed the stages into early stage startup, growth stage startup, scale stage startup, and a public startup. What's cool about the platform is like this has always been a place where engineers go to sign up, join the platform, give away their first party data, and find those types of companies. I think. And then on the back end, like as we source candidates to be able to drill down to those types of companies, we're making an assumption that if this person is interested and has the experience at those companies, they'll want to do it again, which at the end of the day, there's an argument to be made that interviews are just an exercise in confirmation bias. But if we make that assumption, we then have to articulate it in the job description, in that job ad you talked about. And that's a piece that I think companies can do better with when it comes to leveraging these platforms like a Wellfound or something, or a Built-in, any place that you're hanging your shingle as a brand and there's 500 other partners that have the same. It's that differentiation piece. How do you do that? How do you tell your story from a product growth and financial journey?
Well, I think companies struggle because they make it all about them and not about the problems they're solving and what the candidate needs to know to make a change. So typically, right, you go and you scroll to the bottom and then it's like, at 3 Years Media, we're an early stage startup looking to solve the world of hiring. And we were founded in 2018 by Kibben. And you know what I mean? Like the super cliche PR version. And that is useless in the world of candidate experience, because what they're trying to say is, do I trust you?
Yes.
Do I trust you're going to be there in a year, in 2 years? And so the thing that I always say is like, you sell the job, right? Focus on the problems that you're going to solve. But then when you get back to, when you think, I should sell me now, sell stability. Sell the, we raised $50 million last year, and we're currently part of the AWS Foundation as a source of funding. People
That's
right now
interesting.
are craving stability.
So here's the thing. We have to be, goes back to generational diversity. We have to be inclusive and meeting people where they are on their journey, because the reality is, like, we had this crazy bull market. I think it lasted 12 or 13 years, which means millennials and earlier generations, so Gen Z, and like you could make the argument like Gen Alpha, like do they have work authorization? Are there like 15-year-olds working at Target? I don't know.
The top end are approaching.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's like this idea of looking at what are people used to? What are they emotionally calibrated in their employee experience? Yeah, they might remember that their parents got laid off during the Great Recession, or if you were an elder millennial going through the job hunting process or internship experience in like '08, like it was wild. But the reality is we have all of these folks in the market that have very tangible skills. Like every early stage company wants somebody with 4 to 6 years experience, led a function, had a win, worked for a cool company. Those people were making high watermark comp levels with perks and bennies out the ears. And now if they've gone through rifts or layoffs, we have to have empathy for the emotional turmoil that causes, but also recognize there's a new flexible way of working where people are diversifying their income streams. They're creating content. They're, doing gig economy jobs. And gig economy jobs for like knowledge work.
Yeah.
But it comes back to this idea of what is the value proposition. And I've worked with early stage founders in the VC world, but also in the bootstrapped world. One of the things that I keep seeing and running into is like very discerning candidates see that stability point when they recognize that a company is bootstrapped and profitable. But there is this whole world of work and an entire talent density candidate pool out there that still thinks it's better to work for some crazy, sexy startup name with a silly valuation that's not going to make it to their Series C.
Right.
The reality of VC world is, I think I saw the stat yesterday, 4% of startups make it past a seed stage. I'll double check that fact, throw it in the show notes. But what are your thoughts on just like what the hell is going on in the market and how we can reach candidates in a way that meets them where they are?
I mean, what's going on in the market right now is different than anything that I've felt over the last, I'll say 10 years. So I worked for a very large national recruiting firm prior to coming and doing my own thing. So I was kind of getting that trend level experience because, the recruiting firms are the first signal that something bad is coming. When all like the Randstads and the, all of those kind of big national global firms start to hurt, it's usually the beginning of that economic indicator. And so being there, I started to kind of see what's happening behind the scenes. And I think right now, my perspective is that people are leading with fear and doubt because we are seeing a technological revolution alongside a social one. And most of us have never experienced both at the same time unless you were an adult during the 90s. And if you were an adult during the 90s, you're probably like you might be nearing the end of your career at this point, right?
I'd add economic too.
Yeah.
Like, I forget who said this. Somebody said it's never been easier to be a billionaire, but harder to become a millionaire in today's society as we think of a consolidation of wealth. But also there's a diversification of how people make money. Like even when you think about it at like the sporting level with the NIL, you've got like high school kids wearing Crocs getting paid $50K a month, which is sick. But I know people that work in the recruiting space that make more money off brand deals than their A, 1099 recruiter placements or invoices, or B, their W-2 payroll. So what are your thoughts on like how we think about that? And continue on the thread you were going. I kind of interrupted.
Well, unfortunately, I think we're being worked to death. Like capitalism only gains. Don't get me on my soapbox, but I'm going. I'm going.
Let's do it.
Climbing up there. Is Capitalism only wins when we are working more and we don't believe that we can accomplish the goal. Because if there was a finish line, we would get it. And so, because what's happening behind the scenes is that gap is growing, like you just said, right? I think I saw like if we look at the entire national average, the average salary is 77,000, and if you remove the top 5 people, five, okay, not 1%, five, that number drops to 40.
Yeah.
My point being is, like you said, the gap is getting bigger. And while we're seeing opportunity, what is actually happening is the gap is growing and we are draining ourselves, which is impacting our physical well-being, which means that we think we're making more money, but we're spending more money because we're destroying our bodies by working ourselves until 4 a.m. every night. And we aren't retiring anymore, and we're not taking vacations because you don't get a vacation when you work as a side hustle, says the 8-year entrepreneur who has never actually taken a week off and unplugged, right? And I think that is the truth, is that as much as we see it, it might feel like more opportunity. I think what is actually doing is creating a long-term consequence that we haven't faced, which is the exhaustion of a nation.
I really appreciate that forest through the trees. That is so freaking important. I'm actually taking a vacation next week. I'm going to Disneyland.
Good.
I encourage you to take a vacation. I encourage you, recruiters and HR folks, take that dang vacation. There's a lot of talk about HR burnout right now. I don't know a lot of recruiters talking about burnout. I hear a lot of HR VPs talking about burnout. So my advice is, like, if you work in HR and you think you're burned out, you really just need a vacation. Go take it, lock your phone in the safe, delete your apps. I did that last year. Went to Mexico, literally put my phone in the safe, deleted all my apps, had a blast, was intentional, spent time with my wife. It was a trip. I love it. The other piece you said about wealth consolidation is also, I think it's worth calling out. Executive pay is out of control at publicly traded companies. I don't understand why these executives get these golden parachutes, but the single mom working in accounting gets a RIF. That is just completely unethical. There are a lot of ways to solve it. I don't know if we're going to get there, but I think it starts with empathy at the management level and the recruiter level. When we look at job transitions and folks that are out of work, the reality is it's just folks are taking a little bit longer to find their next role. And maybe they are also being discerning in those opportunities and the value proposition they're looking for. Both things can be true.
Yeah. I mean, if you've ever been laid off, if you have ever been caught by surprise, by getting fired, I mean, any of it, it fundamentally changes you. Remember we were talking about like the emotional moments and why that makes interviewing and job postings more memorable than so many of the other things in the candidate experience?
Yeah,
the
for sure.
decision is definitely emotionally loaded in every way, shape, or form, because I think we, as a society, have this perspective that decisions make or break us. And that, like, you can make this one decision and it could change your whole life. And I am here as an almost 40-year-old to tell you that that's just not how the world works. And no matter how screwy I have allowed my decision making to get, I've always ended up exactly where I belonged. And this is somebody who lived in a van on purpose for like 3
I love
years.
that. I got my little like meditation rock right here. Hit me with it.
But truly, like, we gotta stop believing or allowing ourselves to believe that we can fuck up our whole life. And I apologize for anyone listening in front of children. We'll put like a warning or something. Maybe you can beat me out. But truly, you can't screw up your whole life. You can't screw up your career. If you're miserable at your job, you better go look for a job. Stop waiting 6 months to go look, because if you're hurting, it's worth it.
Yeah, or do something different. I think that's the biggest piece right now. Like, yeah, a lot of recruiters are out of work. I have a lot of empathy for that. I've gone through rifts myself. I've been super fortunate to been able to piece things together. I've taken pay cuts. Like, that's just the reality. Like, our skills are valued in the market at different times during the economic climate. That doesn't mean our value as a person is devalued. It just is what it is. Stop holding out for that job that you hit a high watermark on back in 2021. Recruiters, like, you're going to have to take a pay cut. But one of the things you mentioned about capitalism is this idea of the technology, and technology and capitalism work hand in hand. Capitalism will always siphon the productivity that technology affords. So this idea that we're going to go to a 4-day work week, this idea that we're going to have like some sort of like universal basic fallback plan as a result of the dawn of AI. Like, no, the rich folks are going to get richer and like a lot of folks are going to struggle. And like AI isn't going to give us our time back. It's going to make us have more work to do.
It means that if you're not thinking harder, if you're not applying the human element, if you're not the person who can look at something very standardized and say, this is what's wrong with it, if you're not someone who has really been taught the fundamentals of curiosity and asking good questions, that it's very likely your life will change in the next period of your career.
Yeah, I think that curiosity piece is key. Like at the end of the day, we learn a ton about the business. We learn a ton about people's stories as recruiters. That's why I talk to candidates 6 hours a day. But the reality is like, I can do other things to make a living. Like there's a lot of ways to make 30, 50, 60, $75 an hour. At the end of the day, like this is a very humble profession and we can't just, sit over here and think like, oh, we're great because we work for this cool company that's a household name. Like we're recruiters. Like this work is rooted in the candidate experience, like you called out. They put a lot of trust in us. I take a lot of humility in the fact that people trust me to make one of the most difficult decisions they make in their life. We've seen more job transitions, so I think that depletes over time. But every time I talk to somebody about a new job, it's like, oh yeah, this is cool. This person's going to take a job with us, and like, what can I do to represent the company and the opportunity in the best way possible?
Yeah. When I started my company, they gave me 2 pieces of advice, but one of those pieces of advice, and I find myself going back to this a lot, it is not going to sound exciting or super thoughtful or any of that, but the advice was, you do your best and then to hell with it. And the reason I say that is because I think we've all been in those scenarios where at the end you wonder if, that person is mad at you or frustrated with you, or you wonder if. And the thing is, like, if you take every step on with that mentality of, I will do my best, I know I will always do my best, I feel like you can rest on that a little bit and stop worrying about wondering if you did good enough and just say, like, it is not the finish line that matters the most. It's how you show up every single day and putting on that lens of like, I will do my absolute best and I'll figure it out if all goes to hell anyway.
It goes back to what you said about doing the simple things right. People are getting the simple things wrong on both the candidate and the recruiter side. I've got a couple ideas why, but why do you think people can't get the simple stuff right when it comes to communication, verbally, written, thank you notes, politeness, timeliness, all that stuff that is just ping ponged on the internet every day?
I think candidates get it wrong and they're not getting it right because they either were not taught the very, very basics, or they were given such rigid guidelines that they're stuck in some early 2000s version of where we're supposed to be. And they're not kind of understanding the evolution of the job search or really kind of how to reverse engineer. Because I think that's the magic of the candidate and the job search right now is you kind of have to work backwards of the system in which you are working in.
Yes.
Figure out how that happens.
Yes.
I think recruiters are getting it wrong because there's no formal education pipeline that guides you into recruiting, which means that we already have a massive disparity between our most well-educated recruiters and our most entry-level recruiters. And yet we all exist in the same space and we all have the same, our reputation is the sum of all those parts. And so I think the reason why we're struggling and we're not getting the basics right is because we are not providing recruiter education. And therefore, what every single human does when they don't know what they're doing is we open up the internet and we copy and paste something that we like. And unfortunately, for hundreds of years, we've been doing a lot of things wrong. And so we are copying and pasting our way into, I don't even know what, into our roles fundamentally changing, into some of those roles disappearing. And that, I think that's real if your function is copying and pasting what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to just the way people consume and learn. Like, this is evolving. And one of the challenges is just see folks having less bandwidth for challenging their own thinking or curiosity around a different perspective. In all areas of our life, we're just in these like little feedback loops of people who are on the same team or the opposite team I just don't think life is that binary. Yeah, of course, everybody likes to be right, but I actually like when I'm wrong about something. And I've actually been prompting ChatGPT around this stuff, like, what's a differing perspective? One of the prompts I do all the time is like, what is the theory, psychological, business, or scientific around this idea or this process? Like if I have a thought or I hear something or I read something, like I want to know, like, what is that actually called? Like who was the person 100, 200, 300, 500 years ago that coined that type of thinking? And being able to go back to the source just so like I'm learning, because the reality is like we never stop learning, but it
Yeah.
can be really easy to just mindlessly scroll on our app du jour that gives us a dopamine hit.
Yep. I love that. I'm definitely going to add that to my list. My question that I like to ask is what bias might be influencing my perspective here?
Nice.
And it like, because a lot of times I'll say like, this is what I'm trying to communicate, right? I do this little framework whenever I'm prompting. And I feel like that has probably been one of the biggest and most helpful things that I learned this year is how to get really, really good at prompting, like self-identifying, describing the output, being explicit, talking, answering questions. Like my prompts now are 250 words instead of, 2 to 5. And I always follow up with, and what bias, what am I not thinking about?
Yeah, that's great. I've been leaning out of a lot of LLM stuff recently, having been like sucked in now that we've been in ChatGPT world for 2 years,
Yeah.
just because like I'm craving human connection. And I think there's like other skills too that I can develop, particularly like written and verbal, just by doing. That's one of the reasons I started this pod and like wanted to like have more intentional connection with people in the space and do more content, because like it's awesome to be an early adopter and to understand the ecosystem and know what's going down, but it's also like important to recognize that our time here is limited and like what do I want to actually focus on?
Yeah.
And for me, it's about those relationships, because then that's reflective of how I'm able to present with candidates and glean those insights and connect and really get to their core motivations and lean into that trust so that
Yeah.
we can get a great signal at the top of the funnel and that I can do my job as a recruiter.
I think it also, by nature, podcasting refines our ability to ask really good questions, right? And to like listen intently. And AI, LLMs, none of them can do either of those things.
Oh, I'm a terrible interviewer. This is like, I started this because I wanted to like make friends and
You're like,
have
I'm picking your
conversations.
brain. This is
I do structured interview questions 6 hours a day. It's like I need to talk shit with some homies.
I respect that. You know what? You got to get what you need through extracurricular activities, and you can't put all of that on your spouse, right? I'd like to ask you a series of questions that are unplanned.
Oh God, our work looks so different. She is an attorney and like is 20 feet away from me in the basement in her office. And like she comes in, she like has no idea what I do for work. She's like, "You're going to another conference to talk about sourcing. Don't you just Google around and listen to death metal?" It's my wife's
Only on
voice,
my
by the
good
way.
days. Only on my good days.
You've been around the space though, and like you go to events. That's something that's been really fruitful in my life is the intentional connection, putting myself out there, investing in those trips, taking a couple days off to go to a conference. But like, how did you break into the speaker and content circuit? Because like running a media company is different than getting an invite to a webinar.
Yeah. So looking at my resume, it might look a little confusing, but it all added up to getting where I am today. And actually, when I started out, a lot of people were like, well, you have the benefit of 10 years in the industry. And at first I was like, no, I don't. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I totally did. Because I started out, one of my first jobs was at monster.com when Monster was like the company,
Oh yeah.
right? They sponsored everything. Everything was purple if you went to an HR technology event for a long time. And I was an employee. So I met a lot of those people that are still really well known within this industry in 2009. And I think the thing that I really tried to do throughout my entire career was to have a perspective that was not a regurgitation of everyone else's stuff.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, I get inspired by other people's content, but I will never lift a title off of your blog and put it on my blog and then write a post that loosely refers to every single thing that you mentioned.
There are people that do and charge money.
My blog is one that people really enjoy stealing from. But I think what I've tried to do is just always have a perspective. And I think what I built the relationships by actually having conversations. You know,
Yep.
when I started my business, I would call 3 people every single day.
That pick up the damn phone, folks. I'm out here bugging myself. So I'll
Yes.
call mentors and heroes and people that I only saw on the internet now that are like friends that I send TikTok style videos to and silly songs.
But I think the mistake people make is like they only call people they want to do business with. They only call people that they want to hire them. And it's like, no. Like, I'm going to call people and I'm just going to say, like, if I were I basically prompt them like ChatGPT. If I were starting a company, what do you think I should do? What do you think is interesting? And a lot of times I would just like throw ideas at them and let them poke holes in it. Like, let them
Yes.
have thoughts about it. Be critical of things, because the hardest thing to do when you're a solo entrepreneur is you don't have anybody to tell you that's a dumb idea. Don't do that.
Yes. And like, I'm right there with you. I got into recruiting in my late 20s because in my 20s, I followed my passion and worked in restaurants. And like, I didn't think I was going to have a corporate job, but like, recruiting is something that has a low barrier to entry.
Yeah.
And now, having spent the last few years working as a team and department and function of one, a lot of my learning is through doing. I haven't had like a manager to bounce ideas off. Like I'm out here shipping value to founders. Sometimes it's W-2, sometimes it's 1099. So having that network of folks that have been around for 20, 30 years to call on.
Yeah.
Somebody once gave me this framework for networking is spend a third of your time with folks that are 10, 20, 30, 40 years ahead of you. Spend a third of your time with your peers and spend a third of your time with folks in the emerging generation. Like I blow up Steve Levy and Brian Fink like 4 days a week. I have managers and directors and VPs from like 4 or 5 jobs ago that I still stay in touch with. Just being able to ask like, hey, shape my thinking here.
Yeah.
The beauty of content is that on LinkedIn, there's a hot take every 5 seconds. So if you can have a differing opinion, or if you feel in your gut like, hey, I don't know if this is actually how I feel, go ask somebody. Go ask the folks that have been around the recruiting space. Like perfect example is like skills-based hiring is nothing new. But if you're a 2-year recruiter and you log on to LinkedIn, you're going to think it's like this brand new concept.
Yep. It's also biased as hell. And every attempt at creating technological support for skills-based hiring has wound up like Amazon in 2015 when they found out that they were only hiring men.
Yeah.
But no, I 100% agree with you. And shout out to Steve Levy always. He's my Uncle Steve is how I refer to him.
Yeah.
And
Uncle
ask
Steve
him
for sure.
about the bar. And he'll know exactly what we're talking about when I say that. Just ask him. Ask him about the time that he and Kat went to the bar in New York. And he
I
will
don't
tell
know.
you the wildest story about us almost getting in a bar fight. But that's like you build true friendship, true
Yeah.
relationship. And that's, to me, that's what recruiting is. It's people caring about each other. People just
Yeah,
like
100%.
learning from each other. That's all we get because there is no education pipeline, right? And
Yeah, I think that's a great take. We need to have
Yeah.
potentially some sort of like certification or course, or even these like nodes of communities that can pass down. Here is like pattern or style or theory 1 through 5, and have these like schools of thought.
Yes. And people who are willing to challenge and not to like put something up 6 years ago and assume that that's still valid today, right?
Yeah.
There's just so many layers. And to actually answer your question, I think that I've just been very, very lucky to be part of the education pipeline for
Yeah.
recruiting teams for a really long time. And when I decided to be a job post specialist, I think people were interested in the research, and I just kept doing research and doing the work and bringing back all of that information for free and to make it publicly accessible, because I do believe that we all get better when we all just say, here's what I figured out, and stop pretending that like your failure is your proprietary information.
Oh man, people get IP so wrong, so wrong. Like your IP is not what you think it is, and
Nope.
don't be so precious about it. I appreciate the stuff you put out there, and the content and the generosity in which you operate in this community of recruiting. There are a few folks who've led the way, and I hope to carry that torch in a similar way as I learn. Really appreciate you jumping on today. How can people stay in touch with you? Where will you be in the next few months? Like what's on the agenda?
Yeah. So I am the only Katrina Kibben in the world. So if you spell my name right, you will find me. If you spell my name even kind of wrong, you will find a priest for the U.S. House of Representatives. and you will know you are in the wrong place because I'm too gay for that job. In 2025, I'm doing something a little different because, like you said, I'm really interested in learning and I'm tired of just like spouting ideas that I've learned. And so I'm actually going to take a different approach to my blog and really be doing some longer deep dives, like a
Oh, cool.
6-week series. The first one I'm working on is around pay transparency and salary and kind of flipping it on its head, not just talking about the laws, but talking about where I think we're getting it wrong and also talking about candidate psychology around money.
Nice. I like that.
And frankly, it's all for me, but I think it'll benefit other people too, and that we all get to learn together.
I can't wait to read it. Are you doing any conference speaking?
Yeah, I'll be doing lots of speaking. I do a lot of the like state SHRM conferences to teach about how to use AI to create less biased job postings. And my first event of next year is the Louisiana Inclusion Summit that I actually was a speaker at 10 years ago. And I
Oh,
sat
wow.
next to someone who didn't know what LGBT stood for.
Oh,
And
wow.
now I've been asked to come back and kind of talk about the State of the Union. And I'm really, really...
That's amazing. You've talked a little bit about that inclusion. Just super quick, a place to support. Are there any communities that come to mind for like LGBTQ job posting or reaching those types of candidates that you would recommend to people?
Yeah, I think it's actually about changing the dynamics of your ask and making sure that your distribution is wide because 10% of the US is part of the LGBT community now. And so as long as you kind of expand and be explicit about what you support and what you don't, I think
Yeah.
that's a really easy way to invite people in instead of sending them running with those weird... In 1994, we founded the Abbott Company at the blah, blah, blah that everyone's copying and pasting from the press releases.
You do a really good old timey radio voice.
I mock
Uh,
buzzwords enough that I've had a lot of practice.
well, we'll have to mock some more buzzwords. I always like thinking of places where I can like write a check, get a job ad, support folks doing great work. Community-based hiring doesn't have to be that hard. Just write a damn check, folks. Kat, I will see you out there on the circuit. Please come out to Denver. Throw in an app for Disrupt HR. It's going to be in June. I think your blog series around pay transparency could be a great, timely talk for Disrupt. So let's double click on that. But thanks for joining the pod.
Thanks for having me.